All right. So, good morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Abby Wasserman, and my pronouns are she, her. I work as the Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life here at the University of Pittsburgh, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Hesselbein Global Academy Virtual Summit entitled Now More Than Ever, EI is the Key to Transformation. Please note that the session is being recorded. Our presenter for this session is Dr. Santo D Marabella. Dr. Marabella is an author, playwright, filmmaker, speaker, and educator who creates, produces, and distributes edutainment that makes a difference. He is an author of two books, The Lessons of Caring, 2018, and The Practical Prof, Simple Lessons for Anyone Who Works, in 2014. And his newspaper column, Office Hours with the Practical Prof, has appeared in the Reading Eagles Business Weekly since 2012. Dr. Marabella has been a trainer and facilitator for the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance since 2015. He is the writer and producer of an original musical, 3 short films, and 6 plays, creator and writer of a TV pilot, producer of 5 short films, and director of more than 25 community theater productions. Dr. Marabella is Professor Emeritus of Management at Moravian University, President at Marabella Entertainment and Education Enterprises, LLC, co-founder and former film commissioner, Reading Film, co-founder, Reading Film Fest, co-founder and past chair, Greater Reading Alliance of Community Theaters. Dr. Marabella developed a 4-part training series on emotional intelligence for the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance and teaches modules in emotional intelligence in his graduate course, Developing Leadership Competencies for Moravian University. Dr. Marabella earned his DSW, Doctor of Social Work, from the University of Penn School of Social Policy and Practice, an MBA from St. Joseph's University, and a BS in Business Administration from Villanova University. Quite an impressive resume. So thank you to Dr. Marabella for being with us today. Let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Abby. And good morning, everyone. I invite you to turn on your camera if you'd like. I'd love to see your faces. And I am happy to be here today. Abby, thanks for the kind introduction and for being here and assisting with this session this morning. So I just want to make sure we'll do a little bit of a housekeeping. We have a really short time to be together, but you'll see the reactions at the bottom. So there's a place to raise your hand. So my first question is, how many intelligent people are here in the room today? Raise your hand if you're an intelligent person, either your physical hand or your... Okay, that's, I'm hopeful that there's going to be a lot. Yes, very good, very good. Excellent. Now the second question is, you can lower that hand, or it'll lower it by itself maybe. The second question I have for you, and I'm hoping the answer is just as positive, is how many emotionally intelligent people are in the room? Let's see. Okay, that's pretty good. So that's our topic. Today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, and if you asked me, I would tell you that emotional intelligence is the foundation for transforming leadership, or transformative leadership. And we'll talk about why. So I'm going to share the screen and invite you to going on this little journey with a very brief PowerPoint, but let me move this around. But it'll just use, I'd like to use this to kind of guide our conversation. Transformative leadership in turbulent times is the theme of your summit today, and what a pleasure it is to be a part of this Hesselbein Global Academy. I've known Mrs. Hesselbein for years and have so much respect for her and all the good work she's done. So here's a definition. You could find many definitions, but here's one that we'll use for today. Arguably the foundation on which all transformative leadership is built, because it provides essential requirements to lead. And they are simply tuning in to yourself and to others, and then acting accordingly. Well, what does that mean? Let's look at this in terms of our outcomes for today. Let's see, is this going to, there we go. Our session outcomes, the hopes that I have for us from today are these 3. And I'll just talk to them rather than reading them. I really, in case you don't know a lot about emotional intelligence, that's okay. So we'll do just a quick refresher. So you'll have a handle on that. The second outcome is I'd like you to be able to apply EI to conflict, engagement, and inclusion kinds of issues. And the third piece, which is great to have such a nice sized group of 36, 37-ish, is to kind of learn from each other. So I've allotted some time at the end of the session, and Abby's going to keep me on track with that. So we have a few minutes at the end to have that conversation, because I think conversations really solidify the learning. So let's look at this. Well, welcome and introductions. We've sort of done that. I would love to talk to each of you individually, but again, in this short time, I don't think that's something we can do. So please know that I am happy you're here, and I really love this process of learning and teaching together. So the agenda is this a bit of an emotional intelligence refresher, talking about EI as a foundation of transformative leadership. And then some really, really brief case scenarios. We're going to break out into groups. And since we weren't sure the mix of student versus folks, either non-traditional students or folks working outside the home, I've created some very simple examples for both of the targets. And then we'll have our conversation towards the end. So if I can find my cursor, there we go. All right. So what is EI? The ability to understand and manage your emotions and understand and influence the emotions of others. That's key. It's not just our emotions, but it is also then tuning in to self and to others in ways that help us influence the emotions of others. And we'll talk about that. So there, depending on who you read, you might find there are 4 components. You might find 5 components. It's all good. For our purposes this morning, we're talking about 4. And they are self-awareness, self-management, sometimes called self-regulation, social awareness, and then relationship management. And you'll notice I parenthesize empathy, because honestly, to me, empathy is such a strong subcomponent. And as I said, it's for some, it plays the 5th component, but it's definitely something that the more we are empathetic, the more socially aware we can be, and the better we can manage relationships. So let's look at each of these really quickly. So, you've heard that term hangry, right? I'm hangry, combination of hungry and angry. Well, self-awareness, and I'll give you a moment to read this through. Again, I don't want to read everything to you, but a lot of times you might be hangry and you might not know it, but people around you will figure it out, because you may snap out a little bit, you may be curt, you may just on your face. I can never play poker or any kind of game that has to be secretive, because on my face you can see if I'm hungry, if I'm upset. So if I don't know it, other people definitely know that I'm hangry. And we really need to be aware of it and want to be aware of it, because who wants to be rude or mean to others? So the self-management component then is knowing this, being aware of it, and then knowing that I don't want to be rude. So my main goal is to get food, get something to eat. But in the meantime, on the way to food, I got to be really careful about what I say, how I act, what my face says, what my body language says, because all that communicates on the way to getting food. And so that's the self-management piece in an oversimplified way. And please, if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to raised a hand, and Abby, if I miss it, please let me know. But I'm happy to have it be a conversation as we go through this. So then the next two components, social awareness. This might be if I'm the leader of a team and I see somebody who's usually very engaged in the conversation of the teamwork. It could be at school, it could be at a job, and this person is just distant, maybe just not very talkative. So what I do as part of my social awareness, I will continue the meeting as I normally would. Certainly wouldn't bring any attention to that team member who's quiet, but I would keep the communications open among all team members. And certainly if that person wants to talk or add something to it, there's some sounds outside, sorry, then I would certainly welcome that. The relationship management piece of this, going back to that same example, is when the meeting ends, I might catch up with that person. I might reach out and I might say, is everything going okay? How are you doing today? Not one of those, hey, how are you? And that we don't really mean it, but the, hey, how are you? And we really do want to know, how are you? And maybe that person smiles and says, yeah, I just had a rough night with the new baby and she had no intention of sleeping. And I might respond something somewhat empathetic, hoping to be empathetic. That must be really difficult. But I'll let that person know. I'll let them know that if there's something they missed at the meeting and they want help filling the gaps, I'm happy to do that. That's it. I don't become therapist. I don't become social worker, although I am. I just simply acknowledge, let them know that somebody's paying attention, and if they need the help, there's somebody they can come to, right? That's simply, in a nutshell, how EI can work. So our second part of the conversation today is EI is the foundation for transformative leadership. So my question is, why is EI, or which is how I refer? You'll see some people talk around EQ, emotional quotient. I prefer EI. Emotional intelligence. And so why is it so relevant today? Well, here's my presumption. The more negative change there is, the more we need people to be emotionally intelligent. Emotionally, I should say, intelligent. What does this mean? What is this negative change? Well, look, we don't have to go too far back, right, to go to negative change. Now, I'm specifically talking about the negative aspects of these issues. So the pandemic brought illness and death, right? Illness and death, that's a negative change. It brought it in great numbers. It may have come really close to your home or to your family or to your neighborhood. The next negative change that we can look to in a business context, too, also, is what's been called the Great Resignation. I think it's about 20%. The last data from 2021, about 20% of workers in the U.S. have resigned, and it's not getting any better. And so there's the negative change is on the impact on companies, on the workers who remain, having to do more with less, right? So the results can be these three. And there's many more, but we'll focus on these three because that's what we'll use for our conversation. Stress, conflict, and disengagement. Okay? Stress, conflict, and disengagement. Excuse me. That's nothing new, right? In the world of business or the world of academia, any realm that we operate in, it's possible to have stress, conflict, and disengagement. So let's talk about how emotional intelligence can help us in this context. So we're going to use these case scenarios, and at this point we're going to talk about going to breakouts for a few minutes. But before we do that, I just want to kind of lay some ground rules. So each room will be automatically assigned so that we have balanced number of people. And I asked Abby to make it 6 to 8 people people per group because that gives everybody an opportunity to speak. There are going to be 2 scenarios in each of the 3 topics. You may pick one or try to respond to both. It's okay, depending on how much time remains. The objective is to come up with a way to address each scenario using the principles of EI as best you can. I mean, for some it may be your first time, and for others it may be something you're really familiar with. But you get the sense that it's tuning into ourselves and our emotions and managing that, and then tuning into others and their emotions and helping influence that. If they're stressed, if there's conflict, if they're disengaged. So you'll have 4 minutes to discuss each topic. What I'd like to do is, rather than wait till all 3 topics are discussed, I'd like to do a 4-minute session for the first topic, come back, get some feedback from folks, and obviously we won't be able to get everybody, and then go back into the breakouts, 4 minutes, again, et cetera, et cetera. So that way we can at least keep getting some feedback, getting you engaged in this conversation, rather than waiting till the very end, because I want you to be able to share. Okay, Abby, are we set for that? So let me just show you each of these topics. I'll keep it on the screen as you're in that particular topic. So there's a student one and there's a worker. There's a student and worker for conflict, and there's a student and worker for stress. So in each of these scenarios, there's a question at the bottom. What do you do to help manage the stress? What do you do to help them resolve the conflict? And what do you do to help them re-engage? So let's start with stress, and we'll see you back in 4 minutes. Excellent. So it's about 10:21. Come back at 10:25. Abby, how many groups do we have?
It should be 5.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So 5, 6 to 8 in each.
Yeah, it's like 7, 6, 6.
Yeah,
And
nice.
1, 5. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whatever is left, right?
Yeah, right.
Good. And what's our hard cut time?
Let me not say the wrong thing. Let me look for sure.
Okay.
10:55.
Oh, good. Okay.
So you want me to give you a warning around like 10:50? I know you said.
Sure.
Okay.
That would be really helpful. I think we're going to move through this pretty well, but I want to make sure, that's why I'm doing this rather than having them go through each scenario.
Okay.
I prefer they get the opportunity to talk. Oh, there's another person. Excellent. You can't get rid of this. Oh, there it is. Find my cursor. Those rooms will then stay.
Yeah, they should be the same. Once,
Good.
like we can close them and then open them up again.
Excellent. Okay, that's great.
I don't remember how long you said. Do you want me to close them now? 10:26.
Yes, 4 minutes.
Okay. All right. Bring them back.
Okay, as soon as everyone's back, we'll start our conversation. All right. So, I'd like to encourage each group to participate. I was thinking maybe we could do two groups for each topic, but we'll see how that goes. Um, who would like to share what some of the things you discussed in your group? If you did the first one, your roommate bombed a midterm and is stressing out about the future. Sure, Kayla.
Hey, hi, good morning.
Hi.
Our group talked about first and foremost, not making a roommate's emotions feel lesser than, really acknowledging and taking the time to understand that the roommate feels the way that they do, and that sometimes you need to let people sit in that instead of providing your outside input about it.
Uh-huh.
We talked about encouraging the roommate that one bombed exam is not the end of their future. But then another point was also brought up that directing the roommate to resources that help that roommate so that in future events, this scenario does not take place again.
That's great. It's really good. Validating people's, thank you so much, Kayla, validating folks' right to feel as they feel. Sometimes we rush in to fix it, right? And as Kayla said, that's not going to be really helpful in this context. That's excellent. Thank you so much. Anyone else? If you worked on that one, or the subordinate is upset that their son, a sophomore in college, got his girlfriend pregnant.
I can talk about the roommate bomb the midterm one. That's what our group is talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. So basically, we brought up a similar point to like just trying to put this one failed test into like the grand scheme of things, but also what we're also talking about is how you need to kind of read off of how emotional they are, because if they're overly emotional or depending on the response, you can kind of gauge how aggressive, I guess not really aggressive, but how like involved you will be into like trying to alleviate their like stress. Because if I sometimes I have found in my life that if somebody's really emotionally charged, that sometimes just being there and waiting for them to, go through it kind of on their own is better than trying to interject so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That gauging, that's part of the social awareness component of really tuning in to, as you said, gauging kind of where they are, and based on how emotive or emotional they are, kind of taking your cue from that. It's great. Great. Thank you so much. Anyone else for either of the scenarios? Okay, great. All right, then let's go to the second scenario and we'll go back into our groups. And this one's about conflict. The first one is going to discuss a leadership of a student team, what to do when somebody's not pulling their weight. And the second scenario is a coworker who is also a friend, and they did not get the promotion and you did, and they know it. And so and there's a conflict as a result. So Abby, if we could go back to our rooms and we'll come back in another 4 minutes. I'll be right back. Back. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, just at 10:34. So do you want me to bring them back since it takes now it's 10:35. So I'll close it.
Okay. And we're Almost back. Feel like it's a commercial break. Only the commercials are really good. Welcome back. So I'd love to hear from two different people. And of course, everyone's always welcome to participate. But I want to encourage who would like to talk about one of the scenarios. Elizabeth.
Yeah, so something my group talked about, the student conflict was to be checking in with them first and making sure everything's okay, because you never know what's going on outside of the project. And then also like asking them if they need help with anything or offering a helping hand, and then also asking if there's anything that needs to be clarified, but not doing so in a way that you impose yourself on others too.
That's a really helpful approach, because you're not accusing, you're not starting off with negative. And of course, this never happens, right? People always pull their weight. Yeah. But occasionally it does. And so I like that approach. I think that's really helpful. When people hear you offer help, if they were going to be defensive, it's less likely that they'll be defensive. So thank you for that. That's great, Elizabeth. Who else? I saw another hand up. Ianus? I'm sorry. Please tell me how to pronounce your name correctly. Ianus? Yes. I believe you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry. It's my family's last name. Changed to my name.
What's your name? I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Meryl.
Okay, Meryl, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my group talked about kind of similar topics to them with the student situation. And we were thinking, like, if you as the leader talked one-on-one with the person rather than like having everybody talk with the person where it might seem like you're ganging up on that person, then that would be the most beneficial, because then you could offer like just a no judgment, like helpful approach where you could ask them if there's anything going on in their personal life that makes it so they're having trouble, or if there's anything you need to help them with in terms of like what the project is, or what they need to be doing, so they don't feel like they have to struggle alone and then like not be able to pull their weight.
Yeah, I like that, the notion of respecting their ego, by not doing this as a public thing, by doing it as a one-on-one thing. I think that's really helpful. Thank you, Meryl. Nathaniel, yes.
Yeah, I was also just thinking that because you're also trying to resolve the conflict between the three students that like apparently demanded you to have that student step up, I think getting like a time or like a date on when from the student on when they will be able to like finish their work, and then being able to bring this back to the entire group would just help resolve the conflict entirely, instead of leaving like all of it up to like, oh, maybe he'll get it done, we'll figure out when.
Oh, thank you, Nathaniel. Yeah, there's it is a complicated situation, because you really have two kind of client target folks to be concerned with, the person not pulling their weight and the rest of the group. So I think that's really great. That's really great. There's, in this scenario in particular, do you think there's any stuff going on with the leader herself or himself that might require some awareness and or self-management? There's two participants that have raised their hand. Let me see. Help me find who they are. Happy to see whose hands raised. I can't see.
I think, was that Meryl again? Did you have your hand raised?
Oh, yeah.
Good, great. Go ahead, Mary.
I think like if it was me and I realized like one of the other people in the group wasn't doing as much, then I'd probably like reassess how I was leading the group in the first place, because maybe that I wasn't clear enough on the assignments for different people, or maybe I wasn't clear enough on the instructions. And I might even like ask that person, like, is there anything you would have liked for me to do differently to make this clearer?
Cool. And how about the human part where Neosha? Yes, please.
I was just gonna
Hi.
ask, like, if I was a leader as well, and this was the scenario that I was dealing with, I think like for group projects, sometimes like you don't know everybody that you're working with, so you're not necessarily familiar with other people's like work ethic and strategies when it comes to completing a project. And you can always create like a group chat over text, but I think sometimes things get lost with that. So
Okay.
maybe as a leader, one thing that I've learned to do is just like send that group text, but ensure that everybody meets in person so everybody knows the rules that they have to fulfill in order to get this project done.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Communication is so important to these kinds of situations. The last question is, would anybody as a leader be a little bit upset and kind of a little bit perturbed? That's the part where, come on, people, everybody knows everybody needs to do their part and this person's not doing their part. I might be a little mad, right? So that's the piece that I have to be aware of. And each of you, the way you framed it, showed us that you really had self-management in mind, because you weren't accusatory, you weren't condescending, you offered help, you communicated. But sometimes there's going to be that little trigger that's going to get us a little mad. And so we have to be aware of that, and we have to manage that. So I just wanted to add that point. That's great. So let's look at the next one. We're doing, and I really appreciate the participation. This is great. The next one is disengagement. Oops. The student one can be a fraternity sorority situation where the student's going to quit school. And then the worker one is feeling kind of disengaged, maybe because of a point of view that they have regarding, it says here, regarding Roe v. Wade, and see how that plays out. So we'll take 4 minutes and we'll come back. The participation seems really good.
Yeah, folks are really engaged. Love to see that.
That's great. Yeah.
All right, I'll bring people back at 10:48. That'll be 4 minutes, and then we'll be just have until 10:55 then.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Then we'll have time to wrap up and any questions. And at the end, I have my contact information if folks have any other questions.
Oh, great.
I'll put that screen up, that slide up. The summit goes to, what is it, 1 o'clock?
I think so. I have so many things pulled up I can't find. You know how that is.
Yes, I do. Which tab, where?
Right.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm glad I saw the announcement. I get the emails frequently,
Mhm.
and I was glad to see this one.
Yeah. Oh, it goes till 3. Oh,
3.
yeah.
Oh, I hate when I see typos.
Oh, I know it like stops you up on your own thing.
Gosh.
Lord.
Okay. The one before that I saw following returns.
Oh, we're at 10:48, so I'm gonna send the thing to close them.
Okay, let me get back to this slideshow while you do that. Okay. And welcome back. We have 2 new scenarios, as we said. This one is about disengagement. The first one is a student situation, and the second one is a worker situation, which I chose something so volatile because, you know, we have such polarization, and it certainly bleeds into the workplace, that we still need to know how to be civil and cordial to one another, and to engage with one another in conversation, regardless of our political or social justice, backgrounds and purviews. So, who would like to offer some commentary on either of these scenarios? Yes, Nisha.
Yeah, so we did the student one, and obviously, like, this was a very difficult topic because you can try and be empathetic, but unless you've like lost somebody close to you, it's very hard to put yourself in their shoes. So ideally, you would want your friend to finish, especially if they only have 1 semester left. But one thing that my group and I discussed is that you don't know how well they'll perform academically with so much on their plate. So is it really worth them like sticking it through just to graduate or not graduate, depending on how they do, when in actuality, like it'd probably be best for them to like see a therapist, be with their family, and just take the time to grieve their mother's loss. So I don't think that there's like a perfect way to resolve this problem, but you have to keep you have to keep in mind that person's mental and emotional health is obviously the most important, and I would argue more important than their academics. So I think that'd be the best bet.
Thank you. Thank you. That really puts in perspective what's important here. I think that when we're in a situation like that, like as you said, if you haven't experienced that kind of loss, it might be hard to empathize with or relate to. But really, what you're relating to is the person's hurting and being supportive. That's really wonderful. Thank you. Han, yes.
Han, but yeah, the
Han, nice to meet you.
very nice to meet you too. I think it's really important to not only validate the person, but when they're ready or if they want to discuss something, maybe propose. I just thought about this. Propose saying, like, just take a gap semester, and if you still feel that, then like you can drop out. But I don't want you to like lose all the progress you've made. And it's not like it's going to be like a permanent commitment when you like take a gap semester, but like it won't loom over you because you always have the option to drop out. But definitely, you know, don't lose that progress. And even though the situation's different and things change, like make sure that, you know, you might feel that if you drop out, like, oh, I did all that for nothing and like everything's over. You don't want that to happen. I mean, even years later, you can go back and finish. I don't exactly know the process of dropping out, but, you know, going home for them is really important. And obviously, school was important to them or still is at one point. Don't want to lose both.
Yeah. Thank you, Han. I think offering perspective like that can be very helpful to somebody who's in a crisis mode, because when you're in crisis, this is what you see, right? You can't really see. You may see a little bit between a little here, a little there, but you don't see this. And so that really can, help people take a breath and say, okay, this is, as you said, not forever, and there's always, being able to make it up, finish it up, re-engage. Thank you. Thanks, Han. Yes, Celeste.
Yeah, I sit on a foundation board at Citrus Community College in Glendora, California, and happened to be involved with a student that went through similar situations. So it was real interesting to listen, because the concern there was, on their part, was admitting to the family that if they did take time off, they wouldn't come back. And having the family understand that idea. And after discussion and going to the family, turned out the family was totally supportive of the idea. And so it really did turn out